Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We are here today for a Workshop Wednesday. Today's topic is going to be sourcing great content. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm one of the principals of Magcast. Let's get into today's workshop. So the first question we got to ask is, what is great content? Great content is that stuff that goes beyond the stupid list that we all see when you do searches in Google or your favorite search engine. It's the stuff that goes deeper than the things that we stumble across and just want to get through it. Great content is the stuff that you bookmark, that you share, that you tell a friend, that you feel like you keep with you. And that's what we're striving to do as magazine publishers. We're striving to give people stuff that makes them go, you know what, this is special, this is unique. And on the back of that, what we're hoping to get is the start of a real relationship that we can build with those individual readers. We're hoping for something that makes that person say, you're a trusted authority, you're somebody that I want to look to as an authority. This is somebody that's got the prestige and the clout and the street cred and the knowledge and the know-how that makes the readers want to attach their wagons to what you're doing as a publisher. So when you're looking as a magazine publisher, you're just looking to get started. And you want to move from the idea of being a writer into the role of publisher. Nothing is going to get you there faster than you even forgetting the concept of writing the content yourself. Because, really this is one of the things that we hear more often than not is people coming into magazine publishing going, oh, but I've got all this great content and this is all the stuff that I want to write, and I want to write all these. No. Even Oprah magazine, which has got her name on the masthead, Oprah's not creating all of the articles. And that's the same thing that we want to remember as a magazine publisher, is that a magazine is supposed to be a spotlight that shines onto all these great, distinct, unique voices that each have something important to say. And you, as the magazine publisher, get to be the arbiter of what's the good content, what's the great content, from what's the stuff that it's never going to make the cut to make it into the pages of your magazine. And the other motivation behind sourcing great content is when you do, you're going to end up with more content than you can use. You also end up with these built-in marketing partners. And lastly, the production of a magazine, when you're sourcing content versus trying to create the content yourself or relying on somebody else to write new content for you, oh my gosh, so much faster when you do it this way and you go source content. Really, whatever way you look at it, there is no reason not to source content. So here's what happens. You get to shift your mindset from being a content creator to being a content curator, and your whole worldview changes. You start thinking about the relationships and about the outcomes that you can bring to your contributors and to your readers versus word counts and page counts. And the other great thing is you get a relaxed outlook and a timeline for future issues, all of which creates this single worldview shift. And that is, when you source content, you get to relax into this role of publisher and have confidence that you're going to be able to pull it off versus having to go and scramble to write all the content and create and do all this stuff. When you don that hat of magazine publisher, magazine editor, you're becoming somebody that is somebody important in whatever the industry is, versus the writers in any given industry. Really, even if you look at some of the top sports writers in the world, they're not all that important relative to the publications that their words live in. Own the venue versus the band. That's the outlook shift. So here's our recipe. The recipe is going to be in two parts today. The first thing is we're going to make a couple of lists, multiple lists, in fact. The first is going to be 10 key things that you're covering in your magazine. And then you're going to make expanded lists of every one of those concepts And every one of those expanded lists is going to dive into a specific part of these 10 key things that we've just addressed. Next thing in our part 1 recipe is, first thing to consider is, with each article, are you creating something generic for newbies? Are you really just creating that freaking list that anybody can find out doing a generic search? Or are you creating something unique, something thought-provoking, that whatever the skill level may be, something that's a beginner, something that's advanced, whatever, something that makes that person feel like they got more value from the money they paid for your subscription or your issue. They got more out than they paid you in money. That's what we're trying to create here, is something unique, something thought-provoking, something that really tips the scales of the value exchange so heavily in your favor that somebody goes, oh my gosh, this magazine issue was just $15 and I got so much out of it for my $15. That's what we want. And that's what this recipe is. So that's the second thing you're considering. You're creating something unique, or you're creating something generic that anybody can get anywhere. Part 2 of our recipe. Who are the top folks in your field? Make a list. Maybe it's 5, 10, dozen people, whatever. Now, forget the list. We're going to come back to those folks in another issue, another edition, another session of the Workshop Wednesdays. We're going to start with the second-tier players. Who are these folks that are operating at a very high level, creating great content, but they're not the name brand. They're not the Oprahs. They're the Oprah before she's an Oprah. The Tony Robbins before he's Tony Robbins kind of players who absolutely are at the top of their game, but they're not internationally or even nationally known. So we're going to start with a list of about 25 or so people that are operating at this level, and you're going to record where you found them and also what makes them special. Things like, why do you want to work with them? These are the basics of a recipe. You'll notice the recipe is in 2 parts. First part is the content. Second part is the contributor. So here's our exercise for this week. And actually, one last thing, little side note before I go on here. Probably the question that we get asked the most often when people look at doing this tactic, and we're going to go into this tactic in specifics in a future session here, but the question is, well, yeah, but if I'm sourcing content that's already out there, people have already seen that. And forget about that, because just because you saw it doesn't mean others saw it. And you know what? Even if they did see it and they read it word for word, the fact that that content is now repurposed and given the magazine treatment makes it something special. This is content that's in a magazine now. This isn't just in just some dusty blog. So here's our exercise. Doesn't matter. Please yourself. Zoho Docs, Google Docs, Microsoft, doesn't matter. Start a spreadsheet. You're going to take your 10 key ideas and make those in tab 1. You're going to make the second tab that's specifics for each of those ideas. 1 idea per tab. Look to come up with 50. Go as fast as possible and just brain dump. Try not to edit or be the filter on the way in. We're just trying to get the ideas out from brain to paper. And once you've exhausted and you've come up with this is time to use ChatGPT as sort of a co-writing or co-list making buddy. One of the things I just want to make clear here about the use of AI tools is you'll notice that we're not having AI write the content for us. We're not selling our souls to the AI devils. What we're doing is using the AI tools and playing to their strengths so that they can help us come up with something special to then go and iterate from. It's more of a co-pilot than it is something that we're handing off our work to, because we still want to be the arbiters of good and the arbiters of what makes the cut and not turning this stuff over to AI. So what we're going to be consulting with GPT for is, what are the 10 things people at whatever skill level you're targeting want to know about X? So here I'm going to copy and paste this over here into good old ChatGPT. And what are 10 things people at the intermediate stage of baseball, we'll talk about Little League coaching. Okay, what are the 10 things people at the intermediate stage of Little League coaching want to know about improving player performance off the field? Okay, nutrition advice for young athletes, importance of hydration, proper sleep routine, injury prevention, mental conditioning, effective warm-up, balancing, practice with other activities, positive reinforcement, consistent practice, and realistic goals. Okay, this is a heck of a good list. So these are things that are specific to coaches at the intermediate level. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the second part. We're going to take each of those 10 things and get GPT to drill down into every one by asking this. What are the 10 questions / problems people, new, intermediate, advanced, have about X? Give me something deeper than the FAQs, dig into the really thought-provoking stuff. So I'm once again just going to copy and paste. So we're going to still target the intermediate folks. Okay. At the intermediate level, have about mental conditioning tips. Just picking something at random. What are the 10 questions / problems people at the intermediate level have about mental conditioning tips? Copying and pasting. Give me something deeper than the FAQs, dig into the really thought-provoking stuff. Great. So how can we develop a growth mindset in young athletes? What are effective techniques to help players manage performance anxiety? How can we build resilience in players? What role does visualization play? Now we're really talking. We've gotten stuff that we can go to specific people now who have written wonderful pieces, who've done YouTube or Vimeo videos, what have you, who've written books. How can we foster a team culture that emphasizes mental toughness? What are the best practices for encouraging self-reflection, self-assessment? I mean, this is a magazine I want to read now. And the thing of it is, we're not selling our souls to the AI devils. All we've done is use the ChatGPT or other AI tools as a co-pilot, as a guide, and something that can help us make a better magazine for our readers. So we'll go back to our list here, and now we're going to bring it home. We're going to say now, who are the top 5 people who've answered the question X or otherwise addressed the topic? So I'm going to take this visualization. Dr. Jim Afremow, Michael Gervais, Joanne Dalcotter, Lindsay Wilson, and Patrick Cohen. Wow. Here it is. Here are the people now. We'll go into this more in depth in another session, but here are the people now that have written on this topic, that have covered this topic already. The question now is, as a magazine publisher, as somebody that can shine this big, beautiful, bright spotlight onto their work, the question is, does it seem reasonable that these folks would want to be featured in a publication about Little League coaching? That's all for today. Unless anybody's got any questions, we'll open the floor. See if there's anybody with Q's. We'll go look in the FAQ or the Q&A session, and we'll make it once, twice, 3 times. All right, gang. This is going to be up for replay. If you are ready for a private tour of Magcast with me, you can go to magcast.co/tour. I'll show you behind the scenes the Magcast dashboard, help you on your way to becoming a magazine publisher and launching your own magazine. If you are not quite ready for a tour, want to have a look around and see what Magcast is about, we have an upcoming webinar. You can go get all the details at magcast.net. That's magcast.net. Go register now, magcast.net, and we'll see you on the inside. We'll see you on a webinar, or we'll see you in a private platform tour. That's it, everybody.